Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Redirection with Terri-Karelle podcast. It is so good to have you. The podcast is brought to you by MasterCard in association with Heineken 00. Again, we just want to remind you through MasterCard that we're going to look for the priceless moments, and we always want to remind you that it's really experiences that makes life meaningful. And of course, Heineken 00, now you can. And so why am I so excited? Because we're back, baby. And I have seen it in all of your messages, the DMs, the comments, and I truly, truly appreciate it. But one of the things that has stood out most about season 2 is the fact that, well, it's visual. You can actually watch the conversations, you can be a part of the conversations, and the set is really what has brought it to life. Everyone has spoken about the color and the art and the books and how the space has come so well together and how the space also reflects me. So who is my guest later on? I don't feel like giving you the details just yet. Just know that if it's the first time you're coming in, first time you're seeing me or meeting me, hi, nice to meet you. Terri-Karelle is the name, and you can find me across all social media platforms at Terri-Karelle. And of course, if you want to find out more about what I do, feel free to visit my website, Terri-Karelle.com. And if there are people who you're like, Terri, you know, say I know somebody who deserves to be in your redirection seat, please go ahead, visit the website, go to the contact us page, and let us know who you nominate, and let us see if we can get that person in the redirection seat. Because inclusion matters to us, you're going to see Tony Aiken, our sign language interpreter, who will be facilitating the deaf community. And of course, Toyota Jamaica, I thank you so very much for sponsoring that facilitation. So, who is in my redirection seat? Who do you think would have been a great guest? Well, if you didn't guess it already, I was talking about my set that was beautifully created, curated, and staged. And you have to meet the person who is the founder and the creative director of Spaces, Janelle Pantry-Coke. This is the person who came together, thought about this space, and has over-delivered. But her story of how she started, how she came up with the idea, and what has carried her for the last 16 years as an entrepreneur, it is definitely one for the Redirection books. And by the way, if you're looking to buy the furnishings and you want to buy the amazing accessories, you might want to use the code Terri10 for the duration of season 2. So, who is in the Redirection seat with me? The one and only, the lovely Janelle Pantry-Coke. Hi, Janelle.
Hi, Terri.
How you doing?
Okay, this is like amazing, right?
How you doing?
I'm great.
So first of all, I invited you, I think back in 2020, if I'm not mistaken, after you and I had a sit down and I actually heard about your brand story. And it never happened. It was during COVID when I started the Redirection with Terri-Karelle podcast.
Right.
And after online events picked up, I just did not have the time to do the podcast anymore. So season 2 comes around and I decide, all right, let us enhance the experience. Instead of it just being completely audio, we're going to do visual. And the first person I think of to help bring my set to life was you and Spaces Jamaica. How you doing?
Oh my gosh. I mean, like when I heard that you were going to do this, I was like, there wasn't even any hesitation, no pause, nothing. I was like, okay, yes, season 2 is coming and yes, we're doing this set.
I'm so happy.
And I mean, I feel like I'm stepping into your space.
Yes.
That's what I wanted your viewers to see, and the tribe and everything. And I hope that's how you feel, that it's like your space
No,
as well.
You I think you knocked it out of the park. Even when you sent over I call it the sample, the swatch, and you're like,
Right,
okay,
with
I'm
the
thinking
mood board.
this and this. And I'm like, yeah, for sure. And we told you that the walls would be red. And then to see you and your team come in and everything just come to life, and you showcased my loves, which are my books and my art. And everyone who has come into the space has said, this is nice.
Oh
I
my
think
gosh.
Alex actually wants to paint his house now in this red, but I don't know if he's going to actually get the look.
Well,
but
Alex,
you know who to call.
You can call me, but no, I'm like super happy that you love it, that everybody loves it, and just seeing you and your brand evolve and everything that you're doing. Like, I could not be a part of what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So talk to me. Spaces Jamaica has celebrated how many years?
This is actually our 16th year.
Did you ever imagine that you would be in a position where you are the retailer of very unique pieces that reflect people's individual styles, but you also help to stage, whether it's model homes or villas or resorts or office spaces? Did you ever imagine that this is what you would be doing?
I think the answer to that is actually no. Because when I started, like I had always wanted to create a home store, a home thing that people felt very inspired in. So I never even wanted my store to look like a store, because when you're coming, it's very lifestyle, and it was always like that from the very beginning. But in the beginning, I was a little discouraged because, I came back to Jamaica after studying. My first career field was in hospitality.
Hospitality, so how you end up here? No, man. So, all right, so take me back. Before we even get into this, take me back to... You've graduated from high school, and everyone kind of has to choose or have some idea of what they want to pursue as a major, wherever, whether you're studying in Jamaica or if you're going abroad. What was your choice of career?
So I was one of those persons who actually didn't have a clear-cut idea of what I wanted to do. So, you had some persons from high school, like you knew that you wanted to go into this profession, whether it's a lawyer, a doctor, an accountant, it's a profession. So, you graduate and you're going to be this person. I had no clue. I kind of dabbled, like, I thought I wanted to be an engineer. I did TD. I was like one of 7 girls out of 80 students in high school in my court year to do technical drawing.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, maybe not. It felt a little male dominated.
Right.
And I was just like, I even took a gap year actually after high school, because I really didn't know what I wanted to be.
Did you ever feel pressured? Or, especially, attending a competitive high school and understanding that the majority of the persons knew exactly what they wanted to study. Was there ever this pressure of, but you should know what you want to study? And we have so many youngsters right now who feel a little bit odd. Yeah. They feel as if they don't fit in when everyone seems to know what they want to do, and yet still they're kind of going, I don't really know yet. Yeah. How did you manage that? I mean,
definitely I felt that way. I was like, okay, why am I one of the ones who are just like, like on the fence? You kind of felt like a little waste person. You feel like a waste person. But, my parents were pretty understanding. I wanted to be an engineer, and that's why I kind of did like physics and chemistry and technical drawing, but it was very male dominated. And I felt as, looking back now, I wish at that point in time, there were like more female role models in areas such as that. So I would have felt a little bit more confident.
Not as intimidated.
Not intimidated at all. But, everybody's path is different. And last month, was Child's Month, and I had the opportunity to speak to some young girls. And it was amazing to hear the different type of careers that they were thinking of.
Yes.
And I was like, this is insane and this is amazing, but it's fantastic because you're hearing very unconventional things, whether it's like, I heard persons saying they want to be an entrepreneur, and I was like, fantastic. Who want to go into real estate, who want to be doing coding and things like that. And it's just, nothing was like gender specific. Correct. Which was amazing.
Correct. And I think back in the day when you asked persons, generally it was medicine and law, engineering, maybe architecture, but generally you didn't hear people actually speaking about being entrepreneurs.
No.
And or working in real estate, just different kinds of.
And quite a few of the young girls, and these were children who just were sitting PEP this year, and they're talking about things that like entrepreneurship and real estate and starting their own business, and had a clear understanding of what it meant to be an entrepreneur or a business person and starting your own thing and not going the traditional path.
Correct. Yeah. So you say, okay, I'm out of high school. I'm going to take the gap year. Luckily for you, you had parents who understood, because we have parents who'd be like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
You're not going to be one of those. I don't really care what you're going to go study something. Luckily, you had parents who understood. So what was the next move? What was the next decision for you?
So after the gap year, during the gap year, I had a couple of friends who were studying and they were going to do hospitality, tourism management. And it's like, oh, you know, you get to travel and work in a hotel. I'm like, oh,
That's so nice.
That sounds nice. That sounds like something I should do. And I went and I pursued a degree in tourism management. But thereafter, I realized it actually was more fun to visit than to working. And my hat goes off to all the persons who are in the hospitality industry, because it's a 24-hour kind of field, because you're just churning out, you know, guests are always coming in, you know, everything has to be smiles and so forth. And I realized pretty quickly that was not for me. It wasn't for me, as much as it's a fantastic field to be in, but it was not for me.
What was the most challenging thing? What was the thing that you realized? Because there's also the notion, or let's say that, you know, people tell you not to quit. You know, quitting is for losers. And I've heard more and more people say, thank God that at times you have to know when to quit.
Yeah.
You have to know when to identify that something is not for you, or you are not for something. And if you're going to fail fast and move it right along. How difficult or how easy was it for you to say, I know I committed, but you know what? This is not for me, and I'm going to try something else. Was it hard or was it easy?
You know what it is? I think anything that you put, so with having a degree, it's a stepping stone to so many other things. And while I'm in retail, the basis of what I do is so customer focused, is so customer centric, that which is hospitality. It's just that I'm not in that environment. I'm more in a creative environment, which I think was really what I was looking for. So not that I didn't like hospitality and the core of what hospitality is, but I needed a more creative environment to be in. So it's not that I failed or abandoned that path, but I used those skill sets that I learned in order to start what I do and have customers be at the center of everything. I mean, the difficult part of it, I think, would have been that for me, what other persons thought. So not so much as that I thought that I was failing. It was persons looking at, oh, but didn't you study so-and-so? Why are you not working in a hotel, or why are you not in the industry?
Why aren't you pursuing
Why are you not pursuing that? The other challenge I also found was that, again, thanks to the type of parent that I have, is that I never thought that I had to be in a certain field. It was never you had to be in this box. Both my parents are attorneys.
Yes.
And can I tell you, when I started Spaces, I got so many people be like, oh, so you didn't want to do law? Like,
the automatic expectation,
expectations of that's where you should be that people put on you. And I was like, no, that really wasn't for me. And I kind of had to justify the route that I've taken for me. But it's as I tell people all the time, just what is for you is for you.
Amen.
And this is my path that I have chosen, and everybody's story is going to be so different.
Absolutely.
And it's like once you start and it becomes you, that's for you.
Nice. So here it is. You've said to yourself, maybe love hospitality, love what it represents. And there are definitely aspects that you love, but I want to find my thing.
Yes.
The thing that's going to drive me every single day, that's going to make me happy, that's going to allow me to serve people in a hospitable manner, right?
Right.
So then where does your path lead you?
Well, so I mean, being an entrepreneur, it's kind of like you've started and so many things manifest from just starting.
Yes.
I think there's a fear of start, and once you overcome that fear, so many things become to align. So I started off in retail. I think my store at the time was probably not bigger than this studio space that we're in.
Really? But when did you make that decision? So when did you make the decision, like what trigger or what was the catalyst or who was the person where, you got the idea of, you know what I'm going to do? I'm gonna open up a store, like a lifestyle store that's very home-centric and lifestyle-centric.
Right. So it's a funny short story to it. So being in hospitality, I was like, okay, I didn't just give it up cold turkey.
Yes.
I said, okay, I wanted to have a differentiating factor. You know, I was like, okay, let me learn a second language. So I was working in a hotel on the North Coast, and we had a lot of tourists from Germany and Austria.
Right.
And not a lot of persons on property spoke German. So I was like, you know,
So Janelle got the good idea.
This could be my little niche to propel me further. So this is actually how Spaces came about. So I was like, you know, I went to the German Institute here. I started doing some courses, learning my little German. And they're like, you know, the best way to fast track this is like an immersion.
Immersion.
I was like, okay, let's do this. So I picked up myself and I went to Austria.
By yourself?
So I had a good friend there. So
Nice.
I had a base, and I was like, you know, went to Austria, was learning my German and everything. And, you know, as you know, travel opens your mind to so many things. So, you know, coming from Jamaica, I was like, oh, you know, we had our retail stores that sold furniture, the big box stores. And while I was there, I got this furniture catalog in the mail, and the furniture catalog was like this thick.
Wow.
And I'm flipping through the pages, and I'm just going like,
wow, what? This is beautiful.
and the level of excitement that overtook me was like, it was almost like an out of body experience. Like, so somebody who loves shoes or whatever would be like, oh my gosh, you know. I looked through the magazine and I was just like,
new level unlocked.
And I went to the store, and I was like, I guess this would be the experience of somebody going to Disney World for the first time. And I was in there for hours, and I was like, we need this in Jamaica.
Yes.
We need this. We need people to be excited and love their home and love the furniture and love everything. Because if I'm excited like this,
The other
chances are that
persons.
other people would get excited. And I feel people should be excited by home. It's your personal space. It's who you are. It's a representation of you.
Of course.
And I picked up the phone, and again, I called my very supportive parents. And I'm like, guess what? I'm coming home.
I have an idea.
And they're like, okay. But they kind of like, let's slow this one down a bit. And I was like, okay. And so I was there, and I remember like having like a speech, like a little text written out in German, because I started calling brands and be like, you know, I would like to represent your line in Jamaica. And I had a little script. And
Janelle, were you not afraid? Like, I'm listening to you and I'm going, wow. And I think the reason why I'm going, wow, is because for persons who don't know your personality, you know, you're very quiet, you're very, you know, calm, you're always composed, you're probably gonna come into a room and just quietly sit down. But then I listen to you, and the kind of risk and the kind of courage that it takes, the kind of, you know what, I'm gonna try, test it, experiment, I'm gonna bet on myself. The average person wouldn't just say, I'm gonna go to Germany and go learn German. The average person wouldn't say, you know, I'm just gonna call them, whether I even know the language or not. I don't even have the store, I don't have the business,
right?
But I'm gonna be like, hey, I'd like to represent you in Jamaica. Where did you get that grit from?
That's a great question. I mean, I would say because I've always had such a great support system that, like, I don't think that I'm going to fail. I think that if I fall, there's someone to catch me. Perhaps. I don't know. But like, I was just so passionate and excited about it that I didn't even care if it was a no. Well, I did get several no's, because first question was, and which company you're calling from? And I'm like, one moment.
Let me get back to you on that one.
Let me get back to you on that. So that by the second call, I kind of had a company name made up. and you know, which department and what lines, and you know, as I went along, I was learning. I was just forming, okay, so they want to know my company, they want to know how many stores do we have, what's the square footage, what's the volume of sales we're looking to do. And I'm like, I really need to do some research.
Yeah, most people start there first.
Yes.
But you just kind of skipped that.
And
Talk to me about the no's. Talk to me about when you find that passion and you're so excited and you just want to dive right in. And a lot of us have experienced that. And the first thing you get is no.
Yeah.
No.
I got a lot of, not necessarily no's. So after, the German and Austrian brands were like, okay, get back to us when
when you're ready.
When you're ready. I came back home and I realized, if I'm going to do this, let's be serious about it. Let's take a little bit of that business knowledge that you actually went to school, you did business management. Let's just slow down a bit. Yes, the passion is there. You want to do this, but let's do the systems. Let's go back to basics. And it took me about almost a year from when I had the idea to sitting down and actually drafting a business plan, seeing where I could actually be sourcing the products, who my market was going to be. And then I remember going to my first trade show after I've now sat down and I was prepared and I did all the research, had companies set up, and I was feeling good.
And how did you come up with the name Spaces?
So Spaces actually was out of like a brainstorming session with a group of friends, and we're like, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to decorate and I want to furnish and I want to have, things to put in spaces.
Yes.
And they're like, well,
there you go.
And I'm like, it kind of just stuck. It's whether it's a bedroom space, a living room space.
It's a space and it's yours.
And now it really has grown from just being residential to now commercial. So the word space really just encompasses.
It wasn't limiting at all.
It was not.
How important is it to have friends who are not quick to judge, but are willing to be a part of that journey, that decision, that startup? How important was that for you?
I would say I have the same core group of friends from high school and they're awesome. They keep me grounded, but also they share my excitement and my passion for it, and they come out to all the events, and it's just amazing.
Very beautiful, very beautiful. So you said you're heading on to your first trade show.
First trade show, and here it is. I would have been about maybe 24 at the time.
You're young.
So very young.
Inexperienced.
A young Black woman heading to my first trade show in the States. And
not just Black, Caribbean.
Black Caribbean.
So they're looking, Caribbean is regarded as a developing
so
state.
It's Jamaica, small market. And everything. So I go to the trade show and I have my badge and, dressed to business casual and I'm going through and no one gave me the time of day. It was predominantly male, who are the buyers, who are the agents, the representatives of the manufacturing companies. And it was almost like I was invisible.
How did that make you feel?
Like after the first day, I literally went in my room and cried.
I'm so sorry, Mama.
But here we are. And now I have reps and manufacturers calling and all over the globe. And we're like, we saw you on Instagram or we saw your website, and can you carry our line? And I'm like, send me an email.
Ooh, send me an email.
Send me an email and we'll review and we'll get back to you. And not to be pretentious or anything, but we're at the stage now where thankfully we can choose who we do business with, whether it's an alignment with our brand and our values, and we research the companies. Is it a product that we like? Is it a product that our customers will like?
Yeah.
So it's been a whole process of growth. And
take me back to that moment. Were you considering for any moment that maybe I just bit off more than I could chew? Maybe I thought that I was meant for this, but maybe this is just not meant for me. Maybe this was just another pipe dream and I need to come down to reality. What did you say to yourself? Did you have to kind of call a friend? How did you manage? How long was the trade show, by the way? Is it another thing that you go another day? Because I know trade shows sometimes go for the week. Did you go back? Or
I went back. I went back the following day, And I was just like, you know what? I went home and I actually looked at the list of companies who are there and kind of looked at and say, okay, I'm going to be more strategic in who I'm going to approach. So maybe not start with the large scale ones, you know, someone who's maybe just starting out a couple of years like us and who's looking for brands to work with.
Right. Collaborators.
And smaller entities. And that strategy actually worked. So we grew with them.
How did you know that? How did you know intrinsically, without being flustered, without feeling defeated, that would have been the better one? That instinct, where did it come from?
I figured as much, you know, they may as well have been going through the same thing because they're up against the big players in the industry, and being the underdog, they may have been more receptive to a new business. And I was just like, you know, let me find what would work for me. And maybe that was also their strategy as well.
Wow. Did you ever see any other Black women in the space as well?
Very rarely. Very rarely. I've been in business now almost 16 years. And the first trade show, I could probably count on my hand the number of Black women.
Why is that? When you and the reason
this would have been circa, so to put it in perspective, this would have been like about 2006, 2007.
Yeah, that's a while. It's just that you figure that since it's spaces and it's lifestyle, and women tend to be the ones who shop. Is it that in the spaces of business, women are more considered consumers, where men are the producers, the manufacturers, and the creators? Is that what's going on?
Exactly was how the industry was up until recently. Up until a few years ago, I would say we were always consumers. We were always employees. And it's amazing to see in the last couple of years, a decade and a half, that we are now titans, that we're now owners, whether it's a small business, medium business, or large, we are owners.
How does that make you feel? How does it make
proud? So like there are now leagues, they're buying groups that are women led. I mean, the shows I understand that we have power. And even recently when you go, like their design, I'm not an interior designer, but I'm a decorator, and there's interior designers who are Black women who are commanding and being recognized for being great in their space.
Yes. And when you go to trade shows now, what's the difference when you look at trade shows then, when you were invisible, to trade shows now, where you have your established business, that you know what you want, you know how you buy, what's in trend, what works for your market? What's the difference now when you go to these trade shows and you attend?
Just that level of confidence that you have, it just feels great. But also what really feels great is just seeing more of you, the inclusion and the representation of your kind. You know, you feel very empowered.
Wow.
And you're just like rooting, like you'll see now, like first time, you know, you'll see somebody who you don't even know them, and because they're familiar to you, they look like you kind of had like a little kindred.
It's like a connection. Yeah, man, it's a connection.
On. And you go now and you find that it's amazing to see how we've grown as women.
Yes.
You know, we're not taking a back seat. We're not satisfied with just being consumers.
We're not settling.
We want to tell you, this is what we want. This is how we want it. This is how it should look. And command and have a seat at the table.
I love that. Most businesses, I think statistically, most businesses don't make it, especially small businesses, do not make it past 3 to 5 years. 5 years is really pushing it. 3 to 5 years. What were some of the biggest lessons you learned in terms of longevity?
Being able to adapt quickly. So I started Spaces in 2007. And we had a world recession in 2008, which any business, whether you were small, medium, large, there was that shock of what's going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen in a week, what's going to happen in a month.
Yes.
And for us, retail is something that it's disposable income. It's not something that you have to buy. You don't need it to survive.
Right. It's luxury. It's a luxury item.
If you think about it. And I kind of said, well, if I'm going to be in this, I've made a decision to be in this. I'm going to be in it well.
And what did that mean for you?
And at the time, it was just changing from what the core products were. So we started out with selling accessories, which were cute and nice.
Little knicks
and things. And then we realized, okay, well, why not offer a service?
Expand.
Why not target corporate? Why not look at making our own furniture? Cut down on the need for foreign exchange. So your brain starts to churn in so many ways. And you're like, okay, these are the things that could possibly work. Let's see which one can possibly work in 3 months. Which one can work in 6 months. And I sat back down again and reinvent. And each time a crisis or there's a seismic shift of whatever nature. I mean, we went through the recession, and then of course recently in the last 3 years was a pandemic.
Correct.
So each time that something like that happens, I take a moment, look internally and see what is it that we're doing, what can I do better, what can I add, so that I'm relevant, so that I'm, so that you're not just looking at it as a discretionary thing. Can we make whatever that I'm doing, can I make it at the forefront of something that people actually need?
Yes. Is that easy? Because listening to you, it's like, okay, so recession, I open my business, there's a recession, or, you're doing well and then there's a pandemic, and all I need to do is just rejig, refigure, adjust, adapt, be agile. Is it as easy as that?
It's not as easy. It's a lot of sleepless nights.
Were there days when you were you feared, like so many businesses, of potentially having to close your doors?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, the most recent, going through the pandemic, I think was harder than going through the recession. I had just, personally, I was at a different life stage. I had 2 newborns.
Yes, twins.
Amari and Zayn.
Hi.
They were just, 4 months old, and
Jeez.
I was like, okay.
Can't happen now.
No, this is not in the cards. This is not in the plans. This is mommy's expanding. Mommy now has 2 mouths to feed, and things are different. It was 2018 when it was just me. Like, okay, I can shift and save and not pay myself or something.
Right.
But no, that wasn't an option. So it was, okay, kids are sleeping. How are you going to reach persons when your store is closed 3 days a week? And I literally sat down, and I'm not a web developer. And I sat down and I designed our e-commerce site.
I love it.
And I was like, okay, I'm cutting expenses. I would love to hire somebody, because I always believe that you need to hire professionals.
Oh yeah, and you always big up your team. Like I follow you guys on Instagram, and you're constantly introducing your team, and you're letting everyone know what this team member does and the value they add to the company. So I know you are definitely that kind of employer.
Yes, I strongly believe I'm good at what I do. You're great at what you do, and it would take me 2 weeks to do something, or 2 months, and you could probably do it in 24 hours or less. So there's a value in that. There's expertise. You see nuances of how things flow and whatever. I see that with spaces.
Right.
What works here with what color and so forth. And I really would have loved to have hired a web developer. But that was not the time.
Absolutely.
When you're cutting expenses. And I literally just sat down, designed our website, so that we could reach persons while we were closed during the pandemic. Said, well, I offer interior decorating services. Why can't I do this virtually? So I researched programs on how to do e-designing and 3D renderings and things like that. And I just went into self-teaching mode.
Did you ever imagine that this is what life would be? Like, did you imagine that after just, having a business plan, opening your business, just learning the whole process of trade shows and collaborators and figuring out manufacturing and all of this, that you would then in a couple of years be teaching yourself to develop your own website, to do e-commerce, and you're upskilling at the same time?
No. The plan was, open the business, you grow it, maybe size, location, staff, and everything is, the trajectory is always upward. The trajectory is never.
And life just lives.
But life happens. And you just have to say, okay, well, life happens and you may have a little dip, but that dip should not be sustained for a continuous period of time. You need to find the up again.
And so you do that.
And
you
do that.
Upskill.
And they see me at work and I crave on doing projects and new things. And I just go into these modes and I just love reinventing.
And I think I think what makes you special is the fact that you stay curious. And the reason why I say that, because people ask me all the time, what's one of the things that you think is important for persons to constantly remain, relevant, and to constantly be able to adapt. And I said, well, you have to constantly be in a state of being willing to learn. And to be willing to learn means you have to be constantly curious of what you don't know and what is better, and where you need to move from here to there, and how do I get from here to here. And asking those questions, I think, is what makes you so good at what you do. So you decide to go e-commerce at a time when contact was just non-existent. And how did it go?
Fantastic, actually. So that was 2020. So we're now into 2023. Doing digital payments, digital website, digital services. We switched and used platforms that were, more interactive for our clients, so they didn't have to meet us. And I was just like, it took a pandemic. But
I know that we're back. And of course, I've been to your store, and so naturally, people who want to come back into the store can do so. But now that the pandemic has lifted, any changes you've seen in buying patterns?
Oh, definitely. People have become accustomed to online. People have become accustomed to convenience, and why not? Because we're now meeting you where you are, whether it's here in Jamaica, whether you're overseas. So it does, it's almost like, what did we do before? When you think about food delivery services.
Of course.
You're like, so we used to go in our car and drive and stand up in the line
for
hours when we could have just gone on our phone.
What advice do you have for businesses that seem to have made a temporary step forward during the pandemic by realizing that systems and processes had to change in order to still serve your customers as well as your employees? And now that the pandemic has been lifted, they've gone right back. What advice do you have for them, for the businesses that still somehow believe that digital is scary, that their customers are not going to like digital? It's going to be too hard to teach customers new things. What's your advice for them?
Digital is now. That's we just have to embrace it. It's not the future. We can't be thinking of how we used to do things. It's how we're going to do things. And in the future, and even in the present, it's just about adapting to the changes. Because when I started, I'm just thinking, oh, okay, I'm going to be a retail store. But the software that goes along with it has to change. If you're offering any level of service, whether you're a doctor, you're looking at the diagnostics and the machinery and retooling. Everything is now so technically advanced that we have to constantly improve ourselves. We have to keep up with the technology. Because globally, it's the way that the future is going. When I look at my business and I hear the talk of AI, how is that going to impact me in the future? Am I going to be relevant? Am I going to embrace it? These are the questions you have to ask yourself. Do you want to be obsolete, or do you want to be the future of whatever industry you're in?
Absolutely. And I think
you have to always be questioning yourself as to where you want to be, who you want to be.
Facts.
In order to be relevant.
Facts. I think what I enjoyed about your answer is also the fact that people believe that unless you are in the financial services where it's fintech, or unless you're in the software business, they don't see how tech can be applied to everything. Like every kind of business requires tech. You mentioned earlier that you had twins. Let's talk about motherhood and entrepreneurship, that intersection, where there's the rise of the career mom. There is the rise of the taking care of yourself, and self-care is important. The rise of the ambitious woman who also wants to pursue her dreams. And then there is, well, you're now a mother as well. So then there are babies, and there's the role of wife. Can we have it all? Janelle said, "Ooh."
Wow, that's a question that I ask myself all the time. And so funnily, I've never been a vision board person. And a friend of mine invited me to a session earlier in the year. And I was looking through those books, and the word that stood out for me was balance. Can we have balance? Which is that, can we have it all? And when you're balancing, as you say, your career, you're balancing family, you're balancing friends, you're balancing your health. And at no point in time can get any one of those avenues have 100% of you. They all cannot at any one point in time. At one point, it's going to be, I'm mom now, and nothing else. At another point, I'm focused. I'm focused on spaces. That's my other baby. And at some point, I'm focused on me. You have to have time for you to regenerate. I mean, to come up with, to be able to be creative, picture. To see the bigger picture for your mental health, your physical health. So balance is a great word, but it's also in perspective, because you can't balance it all equally at the same time. At some time, something is going to get 100% of you. At another time, it might get 50 or 20. But it's overall looking at how you can balance it throughout your day, throughout the week, throughout the month, throughout the year. And I don't strive to be great at everything.
Well, that was going so that was going to be my question. My question was going to be, did you ever feel pressured to be that at the beginning? And over a period of time, you realize, but this is highly impractical. It's unrealistic. It's demanding something that just does not make sense. Or were you always the person from the get-go that just kind of said, yeah, no, I'm going to do what I can, when I can, how I can. Like, it's that simple.
So I'm probably the latter, yes. I was always like, you know what? It's going to get done when it gets done, and I'm going to be there. But things changed in the last 3 years. I actually was like, I was so much more driven when I had kids. I was like, I didn't know I could work any harder. I really didn't. And I said, the last 2 years, so 2020, 2021, 2022, I would say was the hardest I've ever worked in my life. And I have newfound respect for moms. Like, I say it to you like all the time. I'm like, Terry, like, I watch you and I'm tired. So I can't imagine being you.
You say it all the time.
Right? And now that I'm a mom, I'm like, okay.
I get it.
I really do. And there's just so much more at stake.
Yes.
For me, for them wanting to do better, for them to have a role model to look, and they're like, oh, mommies go to work.
Correct.
I'm like, look at you. Yeah, mommies go to work.
Yeah. What are some of the characteristics you would want to instill? Like, if you could pick any three in the world, what are the three you'd want your twins to have? Especially as they are now growing into a world that is fast-paced and always changing and loud. Three things.
To be fearless. Because the very core of being an entrepreneur is that you have to literally have no fear. Because the minute you have fear, you're not going to start. And the biggest hurdle for anyone is stepping out on their own.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
There's so much comfort in being employed. There's so much comfort in whatever position we're in now. There's always fear of the new. So I'd love for them to be fearless.
That's nice.
I'd love for them to be kind-hearted. Because there are a lot of successful people who are just mean-spirited. And you don't want to do anything with them. You know, you're like, okay, they do well, but you don't want them to do well. You're like, so I want them to be kind-hearted so that, you know, like everybody along your journey has made you who you are.
Correct.
And supported you.
Correct.
And I think thirdly, I think I would want them to be just compassionate.
Beautiful. Those are nice. Those are very nice words, I think, that help to create great global citizens. They're the kind of characteristics that whether you are in Jamaica, outside Jamaica, whether you're young, midlife, or whether you're old, those are just the kind of characteristics that you know will make not just you a better person, but the persons you come into contact with. So you have been on your road, literally, your journey has been like this. Didn't know what I wanted to study. Okay, maybe I'll study, you know, tourism management, hospitality. Then no, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. No, you can't be an entrepreneur. You don't even have a business. All right, let me go figure out this business. I figure out the business, and now people are just like, I don't even see you. You do not hold value in our eyes. And 16 years later, here you are. Of all of the challenges, the ups, the downs, the hurdles, what has been one of your most meaningful experiences? Like one of the most priceless moments that no matter what you're doing, where you are, when you close your eyes and you think of that moment, all you feel is peace or happiness or joy.
Wow.
One.
Oh my gosh.
One.
Wow. That's hard.
That's a hard question.
Because, you know, the nature of what I do, so separate and apart from having, you know, the store spaces, you know, we offer the decorating services and designing. And I think for me, each time I do a project, like we start out with this blank space perhaps, or even a space that's occupied already. And at the end of the journey with the client, it's like, Janelle, I love it. Oh, you get that. I love it, but it's like I didn't even know that this could be this, and like this is my home, this is my space, and like just seeing, and don't care how many times I do it,
you don't get accustomed to it.
Just seeing the look on the faces of the clients and the emotion, and then it's like almost like. Okay, I can't get tired of this.
Yes.
Like each moment is unique, and each time I do it, you get that response, and you're just like, wow.
It's fulfilling.
It is. That's the word. So I can't even pinpoint that one time or that one milestone or anything. It's just like each time that I do what I do, I just get so much joy from it.
You see the effect. I think what it is that you see the effect of your service. You see how we respond, because I felt the same way. I felt the same way when I told you, because this podcast is my passion project. It's my labor of love. And I'm very closed, you know, as much as people see me out all the time in terms of working on stages, hosting. I am a loner by personality, funny enough. And I have just a few people in my corner and a few of the persons who I consider my charges. And so when I let people in my space and in my head, and I mentioned to you what I had in mind, and the fact that I think you over-delivered. You know, for me, I can only imagine what it feels like for you when you're able to get what a client wants and even deliver more than they could ever have asked for. And so I thank you for giving me a priceless moment on this new journey. It means Janelle is like, I don't want to remember. Yeah, it means a lot. And I think the narrative, and I always speak about it, the narrative of women who don't support women, or that women are catty. And, you know, it's something that I also try to reteach my daughter, so that she doesn't grow up automatically thinking that all women compete and that all women want to see you meet a nasty end, but that there are women in the space who love you and adore you and respect you and just want the opportunity to shower you with love and support. And you always have. And I believe in giving people their flowers when they're still alive. And just seeing you from high school and seeing to where you are now and how you are just thriving in the space. See what I did there?
I see that
you love. It's just been amazing to watch, and I'm happy that you've become a part of my journey as well. And so for me, the last question I have for you is, having been redirected, not one time, not 2 times, not 3 times, having experienced hurt and rejection and dejection and disappointment, how do you define redirection? And why was it important for it to happen to make Janelle?
I think for me, redirection is growth. Redirection is recentering yourself. And at some point in time, I think everyone goes through inward look and say, okay, I'm doing this, I may be great at it. I'm doing this, I'm not so great at it. And you come to a point where you just have to look within, look at how you're feeling mentally. Is there any satisfaction in what you're doing? Is there any purpose in what you're doing? And if you're not checking the boxes, then you have to redirect. You have to recenter and refocus. And from every step, every milestone, every setback, there's always opportunity. I'm an optimist.
Yes.
By nature. I'm like, oh yeah, that happened, but here's what we're gonna do now.
Yeah. This could have happened because there's an opportunity here.
I'm constantly redirecting and refocusing. And I think it's important. It's always important to self-evaluate. And once you do that periodically, you find that eventually, with all the ups and downs and the detours,
yes,
you get redirected. You know, you listen to your GPS and you're like redirecting, and you're like, oh my gosh, you're taking me on somewhere this looks like some dead end. but sometimes rerouting and redirecting, and you just end up where you're supposed to be.
I appreciate that. I like the fact that you said redirecting, refocusing, and I'll go as far as saying reframing. I think what you've done very well in this lifetime of yours is that you have reframed how you look at failure. In fact, you didn't even say fail earlier, you said fall. You know, you use certain terms that to me is a part of how you speak to yourself, how you view yourself, and how you view the world, and things that don't go according to plan. And I think reframing has a lot to do with the success that you have seen and garnered over the years. And I just want to thank you that throughout everything, you've still remained one of the sweetest, most grounded individuals, very compassionate, and always trying to fulfill the dreams of others. So Jay, thank you for being a partner for my season, and thank you so very much for showing so many of us, especially women out there, that it's okay to start over. It's okay to start over many times. It's okay to go back and reassess and refine a process and then go at it again. Thank you.
Thank you
so very much for making it season 2.
Oh my gosh.
Of Redirection with Terri-Karelle. I hope that when you see the episodes, you will love how everything came together in the space.
Oh,
You know that you know how to say that, right? So thank you so very much, guys, for watching, for sticking and staying. You can almost already tell how excited I am, and I'm very happy that you are excited that the season is back, that the episodes are back, and that I have some of the greatest guests who share their stories in the hope that it will motivate, inspire, transform, and help you to figure out your redirection on your journey. So again, if you are listening on your preferred podcast platforms, you can go ahead, you can rate, you can review. Let us know what you think. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, ensure that you go ahead, subscribe, turn on those notifications, drop it in the comments. Let us know what your biggest takeaways were. What were some of the nuggets that Jay dropped that you thought was an aha moment? We want to hear from you. And most importantly, go ahead, share it all over. Share it with your community, and don't forget to use the hashtag TK Redirection. So until next Sunday, thank you so very much for making it Redirection with Terri-Karelle. Bye. Thanks to our partners, MasterCard, Heineken 00, Toyota Jamaica, Spaces, Commercial Concepts, Brescia, Beauty Brands by MDS, and Go Shore Courier.